The other thing is, is he lying? If you feel constantly worried or a need to worry and check his phone all the time, you don't trust him. What is he doing that has lost your trust? Explore that, investigate that, because ideally what he says and what he does match.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fascinating Womanhood channel, where we talk about all things that have to do with femininity and building strong relationships. I am Terry Lynn, and I am here with my mom, Dixie Andelin Forsyth. Hi.
Hi.
So today we are talking about understanding male body language. Why are we talking about male body language?
Because, as usual, women are very different from men, and we want to understand them better. And we find them kind of perplexing sometimes because they are different than us. So it helps if you understand without talking. You can get clues to how they're feeling by their body language. 80% of what a person communicates is nonverbal. You might as well get to understanding what some of that is.
So some of these things we're talking about today, do they only apply to men, or do they apply to women and men, and we're just focusing on men?
Most of them are the same, but there are some things that tend to be a little different, but most are the same.
So we're going to go into a list. Where did all this information come from that we were talking about today? Is it in your book?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, not so much, but really it's Bob's practice, his training as a neuropsychologist. And then I have done some personal study of my own on body language. I bought a book on how to tell when people are lying, and it fascinated me. And it gets into body language and things like that as well. And so I've been interested in it for some years. But I get a lot of it from Bob, too. And you have to ask yourself, do you believe more what people say or what they do? And when there's a discrepancy between the two, which one do you tend to believe?
Right. Okay, so we're going to go into a pretty extensive list that covers how to tell if he's irritated, how to tell if he's angry, frustrated. We're also going to touch a little bit on lying, and we're also going to talk about happiness and when he's listening to you. So we have a pretty good list here. So let's get started.
When a guy is downstairs, you can get to be very good at that, but some men are very good at kind of hiding it. I've known men that when they get upset or embarrassed, they become very red in the face. It's a physical thing. It isn't just angry. They may be very self-conscious, embarrassed, humiliated. Any of those kinds of things can make them red in the face. But anger can too. When a guy is downstairs, a lot of them will clench their jaw, and you can see that little muscle twitching there. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
That's sort of a hint that they're tense. It can mean fear, though. It isn't always anger. But it's a downstairs feeling. So you'll know they're downstairs.
And for those that don't know what downstairs is, we did a video on that. I'll attach that to the video, and it's also in Dixie's book. So
yeah, it's to do with the way your mind works, your brain. Are his fists clenched? Look at his entire body. Or his fists clenched? Does he walk kind of a little more robotic or quickly, very fast? Does he pace? Now, Bob paces when he's on the phone. So it's just he's high energy.
I do that too.
High energy. Yeah. So it isn't just that one thing. You have to pay attention to all of it. You can't just quickly jump to one thing when you have to consider several things. But you know this person. So you should be pretty good at it. Is he fidgety? Is his voice more clipped, tight, short sentences? Look at his eyes. What are his eyes doing? Now, when he's talking to you, you can tell generally. That's why you have to really study these things. But a lot of the time, when a person is looking up, they're accessing visual stuff, either memories that you can picture or creative stuff. Like if you're trying to figure something out and you know someone's looking up like this, they're trying to figure something out by picturing something. So you'll understand what he's doing. He could also be making it up because he's lying. It depends on what part of the brain you're accessing. But you can get very, very good at this. But it does take some study and time. You can't just, he's looking up and over this way, so he's obviously lying. He may have a mixed dominance in it. So that's why Bob said be careful when you talk about this, because it isn't just one thing. What is when a person is looking up, they're accessing visual. And you'll notice that even in yourself. When they look either side to side or straight ahead, they're accessing hearing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I hear what you're saying. If someone's talking to you and they're looking more side to side, you'll know they're comfortable expressing things in a auditory way. So you say, I hear what you're saying, or I see what you mean. Then you can connect with them better. If they'll feel like you understand them better.
Mm-hmm.
If you're accessing the same thing that they are, if you understand that. If they're looking down and accessing feelings, a person might feel like you understand them, or if you say, I understand how you feel. And this is true with women. If you're talking to a woman, I know how you feel, or I can imagine how you feel. Instead of if they're looking up and you say, I know how you feel, they won't feel as connected to you as if you go the same kind of mode that they are.
Okay, so visual, memories, hearing,
and feelings.
And feelings. Okay, that's easy to remember, to think about it that way.
Well, and you do it as well. It's visual is real easy because you think I do that all the time when I'm either figuring something out, like or remembering when you went on that hiking trip. Connect with him. If you see him doing it, you can connect with him better. If he's accessing visual, you can say, I see what you mean. And if you'll notice, some people say they have a favorite mode where they like to kind of hang out. Some people often say, I hear you, or I see, or I understand. And people have favorite parts of their mind they like to access. Mm-hmm. You can connect with him. When he has good eye contact, he's listening to you.
Yeah, that's a big one. And really important.
And if he doesn't, he's probably trying to multitask, which we know, ladies, is one of our strengths. It's not so much most men. They try.
We did a video on, is he tuning me out? I think that kind of dives deeper into that subject, but I do think that's a really good tip. It's just like, if he's looking at you, I know that sounds incredibly simple, but
if he's doing this and talking to you, he's probably only got a half of one ear on you, and it's easy to not notice that. I am a very good multitasker, but I cannot read something and listen to somebody at the same time. It's hard for me. I can't do it. Okay. Sitting. Pay attention to the way a person sits. Does he lean forward when he's talking? When he leans forward, he's being sincere. He might be being intense or engaged. If he's leaning back, as though he's creating distance between you, he might be doing that, or he may be just tired. You have to put all these things in one package. It isn't just, he's leaning back, he's tired. He may not be. He may be trying to create distance between you. Or even worse, if you're sitting in chairs and he moves his chair away a little bit.
This is very intuitive, just maybe for me and my husband, but I've noticed that he sometimes leans back if he's feeling a little defensive about something.
Yes. And sometimes guys do this when they're being defensive. Yeah. They're protecting themselves.
I just have this automatic when he goes back, I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah. He's feeling like you're not connected. He doesn't. Yeah. What about his posture? Standing. Is he slouchy? Is he fidgety? Is he pacing all over the place? Is he walking really slow and kind of dejected, distracted? And then
what does that mean if he's doing those things?
If he's walking, it may be that he's excited. Maybe he's in a hurry. But when you put all that into one kind of a box of this guy that you're focusing on, and you pay attention to what he says, what he does, and then you also look at body language. That'll give you a lot of clues to understand him without him having to verbalize. You know him. Hopefully we're not talking about a stranger, but even a stranger, you can get a lot of body clues. If he's slouching, it could mean that he's tired. It could mean that he's worried or low. It could mean that someone has really hurt him. But you know your boyfriend or your husband well enough that you can pick up on these clues and put them in with everything else. Okay. I have had too much experience in my life, I wish I didn't, of women who have talked to me about men who are lying. And how did they tell? How did they tell? Well, I asked Bob for his professional advice, and he said the biggest thing to ask a woman, do you tend to believe his words or his actions? Because we've had some women that have said, he says this, I'm so confused because he says this, I'm catching him going out with prostitutes. Ooh. So what that's really
extreme, isn't it?
It is extreme, but it's also a real case. Yeah. So what I'm thinking is, why would you believe anything that he's saying if his actions are completely the opposite. He says he loves me. But he said this and he said this. But then they kind of discount what they do, putting more emphasis on what they say. If you really want to know if someone's telling the truth, you have to pay attention to what they do.
Yeah, I agree, especially with men, and especially men that are not very good at verbalizing their feelings. There's some men that are pretty good at it and others that are absolutely silent half the time. So you have to really learn. These things are really helpful for the man that's a little more quiet.
The other thing is he lying? If you feel constantly worried or a need to worry and check his phone all the time, you don't trust him. What is he doing that has lost your trust? Explore that, investigate that, because ideally what he says and what he does match. And that's where you really build the trust and you really have a great relationship. But until you get there, he may be a guy that's not very verbal.
Yeah, and I think this could dive into so many other subjects, such as what you just mentioned, trust. We did a video on that. And then also boundaries. We did a video on that because there's been stories where ladies have said he's addicted to something. So that's not, this isn't
That's a judgment too. Addiction, Bob always says, because he specialized in addiction years ago, addiction is where it interferes with a major life area.
Yeah, I think also too, there could be even, aside from addiction, it might just be a boundary thing. It could be an immaturity thing. There could be a lot of things going on, but the body language cues, to me, what's so helpful about this is to just be able to be a detective, a little bit more of an efficient detective in a way, and getting to know him and say, okay, he's doing this, so that tells me this, rather than just going, what's going on?
Well, and I like to look at it as treasure hunting rather than you are trying to find him guilty. You're trying to treasure hunt so that the more you can understand him without him having to verbally explain it to you, the better. Mm-hmm. The better for you, for him. He'll feel like she understands me, and he may not have said all that much to you about the things you've discovered about him. Okay, we also have had women that have said, I don't understand. My husband never tells me he loves me, but he brings me flowers. He does all these things for me. He probably has trouble verbalizing. It's very uncomfortable. And I know Bob was taught, innocently enough, by his mother, she would say words are cheap. Show someone that you love them. Words are cheap. People say I love you all the time and don't do it. And I said to him, what's wrong with both? And he thought, yeah. He'd never thought about that. You don't have to pick one or the other, but if you do have to pick, because of, I'd say, pay more attention to what he does.
Yes. And I think that's really important. And that's a lot of men fall into that category of not saying, or, complimenting their wife, like you were saying. And she wants to know, like, does he think I look nice? Well, maybe if I don't know what kind of gestures he would do to say that you look nice. Maybe he just opens the door for you or something. That's almost like a way of saying you look nice.
Bob tells me I'm attractive all the time now, but he doesn't remember when I was in my 20s, I looked better, in my opinion. He almost never told me. He didn't realize he didn't. And so I kept trying to look prettier and prettier because I thought I wanted him to say it, but he didn't realize he wasn't.
One thing that's really helped me is when I make dinner, I think I've told you this story. When I make dinner, my husband rarely says anything about it. Sometimes he'll say thank you, but he just kind of, helps clean up and then he just goes and does his own thing. So I had asked him about it at one point. I said, how come did you like the dinner tonight? And he'll say, yeah, I had 2 helpings. And I thought to myself, aha, okay, so if he has a little bit more, even if it's just a spoonful more, that's my clue. Oh, he liked it.
And then you don't have to say anything.
Instead of constantly nagging, because I think there's women out there that would be like, why don't you ever say anything? Instead of saying, well, did you like dinner tonight? I just look and I watch. And I think that can also be a part of body language, just saying, okay, well, he's reaching in to grab some more. That must mean he liked it. I don't have to worry. I'm off the hook. I don't have to worry about what I like.
Then you don't have to require the verbal validation. And when it's more uncomfortable for him, if you can, like if he looks at you and you're dressed up and he looks at you appreciatively, you can think to yourself, yes,
I did it.
Instead of saying, do I look okay?
Right.
Sometimes you can just think, he likes the way I look. I can tell. Yeah. Now, one area of body language that we wanted to say is how to tell when he's in task mode. That's pretty easy for me because Bob's in task mode
all the time.
He's a lot. And I asked him just just to see what he would say. How can you tell?
Yeah.
He says, oh, that's easy. He's distracted.
Oh, okay.
Distracted. And I thought that surprised me a little because I saw it coming a little bit different, but he said everything's related to distraction. Like if he is doing something, reading something, and I want to say something, that is a task for him. Even if he's reading the news, it's not something that it's necessarily about his work. Men tend to think of everything as a task. Not everything, I guess not. Even taking a shower. I got to do this, wash my hair, and all that stuff. You know, they think of so many things as tasks, and we're more relationship oriented. So if he's in task mode, if he's not listening to you, or he's acting like, yeah, he's in task mode.
One thing that my husband does that we haven't mentioned on this list, when he's in task mode or he's distracted, he pops his knuckles.
Oh, I've seen him do that. I didn't
like
know
that. It's very like, I got my mind on other things and I want to get going. He does it a lot at dinner when he's kind of not expected, but you know, I think he thinks, okay, I have to sit down and focus on this, but he's like really secretly wanting to go do something else. And I notice him doing this, and it's not anything I can really do anything about, but it does help me to understand him better.
And I don't know if any of you ladies, guys are all like ours or mine, but I noticed that Bob, when he is dealing with, okay, like right at this moment out in the other room, we're having a security system installed.
Oh.
And when the guy came and told us what it was going to be, I've seen this before. That's why I'm bringing it up. Bob said, no way. No way. That's too much. We're not doing it. I had no idea it was going to be that much. Yeah, because on the phone, the guy told me that the equipment was basically going to be included and we only had to pay so much a month. Here, it was this thousands of dollars. And he said, no way. And I was embarrassed. I thought the guy that's here didn't do the quoting. He's just the installer.
Yeah.
So I was worried about his feelings being hurt. And Bob, when he went out to do something, Bob, in the kitchen, I said, are you angry? He goes, no, I'm just on task mode. I'm not doing that. And I said, do you think it hurt his feelings? He says, no. Besides, he says, I don't care. So that's on task mode. The reason I bring it up is because he may seem angry when he's actually he reverted to task. No. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. The last thing that I think I had, unless you had some others, is how to tell when he's happy. That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But maybe not for everybody. His voice will be more relaxed. Humor comes more quickly. He's more positive when you say something that's happened. Instead of cutting it down like, well, that's not so great, he tends to be more positive thinking, and his eyes will look happy.
Yeah. I know that sounds really obvious for some men, but not for every man. I know my husband, he's not someone that has really high extremes of happy and stressed. It's just kind of like he's a little bit more, he's neutral most of the time. And, and that could go into a whole other subject, but it is kind of hard when you're trying to read your husband and he's neutral all the time. But these things are really great, especially for me. I've been paying more attention to body language since I started being more involved with Fascinating Womanhood. And it takes a lot of time to learn these things and to figure them out, especially with happiness and with my husband in particular. Paying attention to that is really helpful.
And watch him more. Be like a detective. Yeah. Sitting, standing, walking. All those are little clues, but they are clues. And if you want to understand him and develop your relationship, to develop this lifelong love affair, it's actually kind of interesting to watch. If somebody was trying to understand you, wouldn't you appreciate it? It would be kind of neat.
Yeah.
And another added note for single ladies, how to tell if he is attracted to you. Some would say if he's attracted to you, he's going to act on it. Not always. He may be shy. He may think that, as the term goes, you're above his pay grade. He may think that, he doesn't deserve you. He may just be underconfident. But you can tell, there's a lot of clues to whether a man is attracted to you by the way he looks at you by the way he looks at you. Mm-hmm. And you can learn to understand that and to trust that even over his actions. Now, if he asks you out all the time and doesn't want to get any more committed, then that's another issue.
We did a video on that. We did a video on how to attract masculine men. Yeah.
You can learn a lot by the way they act versus what they say. Ideally, what they say and what they do match.
Yes.
And if they don't, look into it. That's all we're saying.
Well, this has been so helpful. Thank you so much. I think we could you could almost write a book on this. It's just it's so fascinating. There's so many twists and turns to it. So I think this was a really, really great discussion about it. Hopefully it was helpful for everybody out there. And if you have any questions, drop them down below. We try to answer every single question. So definitely ask us. We have all of our links below this video where you can purchase Dixie's book, where you can find us on social media, and where you can connect with us. So definitely check all that out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to do that, because then you can know when we have a new video. We have new videos every week. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.